is 5:01, and I will call the meeting to order. This is the Board of Selectmen regular meeting of Tuesday, November 10th at 5 p.m. in accordance with Governor Lamont's Executive Order 7B, Section 1, which suspends the open meeting requirements of in-person participation. Audio and video of this regular meeting will be simultaneously televised on Channel 79 and YouTube, WGA-TV 79, in order to allow the public to view and to listen to the meeting. In-person attendance will not be permitted for comments. At the 6 p.m. public segment, they have had to be emailed in to Jerry Shaw, and the address is listed on our agenda. And with that, I will call the roll call before we begin the agenda items. Deputy First Selectman Mika Cardozo.
Here.
Joe Crisco. Here. Joe Dye. Joe said he might be late, so we'll wait for him. Betsy knows to watch for him to ring in. Beth Heller is here. Dwight Rowland.
Here.
Thank you. Sandy Stein.
Here.
Administrative Officer, Director of Finance, Tony Genovese.
Here.
Assistant Administrative Officer, Betsy Yagla.
Here.
Town Constable, Gerald Weiner.
Here.
Clerk, Jerry Shaw.
Here.
Thank you. And Media Specialist, Pua Ford. She's here. I see her name. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, everyone. We'll begin the agenda now. Item 1 on the agenda is the First Selectman's remarks. Let's see, we're meeting today on a Tuesday because tomorrow is Veterans Day. This year, due to COVID-19, we are not gathering for our annual Veterans Day ceremony. This somber ceremony, organized by local veteran Dr. Barry Josephs, is an important reminder of the sacrifices veterans have made for our country. My father and my grandfather were both veterans. On behalf of the town, I extend our deepest thanks and gratitude to all our veterans and their families. I will virtually attend a ceremony tomorrow at Beecher Road School. I urge you all to take a moment to thank a veteran for their service. As I reported in my e-news blast to residents last Friday, the State Department of Public Health, as of November 5th, has designated the town of Woodbridge as a red alert municipality due to the increasing number of positive COVID cases reported in our town during the last 2 weeks of October. Our current numbers are rising almost daily. The state has also reverted to phase 2.1 due to a significant increase in cases and hospitalizations throughout Connecticut. Again, I cannot say it or stress it enough. I have this in caps on my remarks. Wear a mask. It's easy and it will save lives. Let's show respect for each other. I can't understand why this is so hard. Please wear a mask. I've been working with Quinnipiac Valley Health District and the state of Connecticut to create a local testing site here in town. As soon as I have details to share, we will get that information out. In the interim, Griffin Hospital has expanded their hours to work on weekend testing time. If you call to make an appointment and use the word quote unquote community, you will not need a doctor's note for a test. All residents in orange alert and red alert towns are encouraged to get tested regularly, even if you are asymptomatic. At our last meeting, we heard from Tim and Patty Vale, who shared with us their proposal for NEXUS Golf to lease 100 acres or so at the former Country Club of Woodbridge site to create a hybrid, virtual, and in-person golf course with a clubhouse that would include light food and a wine bar. I'd like to ask members of the board at the end of my remarks to share any thoughts you have on this proposal, which Tony and I will pass along to them. This to me is an example of how we might use our yet to be hired part-time town planner land use analyst, which I brought up last month. In addition to how we might have already sought help for 2 other items, one being the proposed cell tower on Newton Road, and the other being the zoning applications for a multi-use home at Orchard Road and townwide zoning regulation change. We will discuss that later in the meeting. Our town clerk's office and registrars of voters have successfully done a wonderful job on running the primaries this summer and the presidential election last week. The turnout for the presidential election was just shy of 90%. The town clerks have also been dealing with a significant increase in home sales, and the building department has reported there are several new homes being built, and I have received inquiries about a few more that may or may not start this winter. Despite pandemic, we continue to do the business of the town for our residents. Our town buildings remain open to residents by appointment. I also send special thanks to our library staff for all they have done to make our library open for residents. I've had several calls from residents thanking them for this service. Last Friday, I visited the Darling House property and watched little Lucy being removed from the yellow cow barn. It was quite an impressive sight. The Woodbridge resident who took the pieces plans to reconstruct the barn, if possible, as a project with his children, and perhaps repurchase some of the wood as well. Sorry. I plan to take another look at the cleaned out barn soon. I thank the members of the Public Works, especially Brad Parsons and Bob Hauser, and Chris Sorensen as well, for all their help with this project. Getting this completed will now help with the State Historic Preservation Grant that we hope to receive soon. I've heard a rumor that we've gotten it, but we don't have anything official. To survey the cow barn, the ice house, and the horse barn attached to the home. Occupancy for the home and caretaker's apartment have now been approved by the fire marshal and the building official, following several safety upgrades and repairs. Historical Society President Alexia Belperon told me yesterday that the new tenants have moved in and are doing twice daily walkthroughs of the house. That's very great news. We'll hear more about the Thomas Darling House Advisory Committee efforts and successes from Chairman Dick Blackwell later this evening. Before his update, I'm just letting you know that we have decided, after a conversation I had with both Todd Levine from the State Historic Preservation Office, Alexia Belperon, and Dick Blackwell, that in order to continue to promote an effective working relationship between the Advisory Committee and the Historical Society, Chairman Blackwell has agreed that he will ensure that all proposals by the Advisory Committee will be reviewed in conjunction with the Amity Woodbridge Historical Society, and their perspectives will be conveyed to the Board of Selectmen. As always, final approval for any work done at the Darling House is the decision of the Board of Selectmen. Yesterday, November 9th, we received a congratulatory letter from the Office of Policy and Management stating that the town has been awarded a $128,205 steep grant for reservation improvements to the senior center. That is certainly wonderful news. Many thanks to Human Services Director Jeanette Glixman and Administrative Officer Tony Genovese and our Human Services and Finance departments for submitting this grant application. Additionally, I also am happy to report the town has just received notice of an award of $70,098 from the CVRF, which is the Coronavirus Relief Fund, and $36,519 from FEMA, both confirmed reimbursement through June 30th. A special thank you to Kelly Hamill for all her efforts getting all the data entered for this grant application. I will remind the board that in the correspondence section of your packets are several letters from Amity Superintendent Dr. Jennifer Byers, updating us all on how the school administration is monitoring their response to the virus, and a letter from Teacher Superintendent Christine Syriac, who's with us this evening, regarding their efforts as well. Also in your packet is a copy of my testimony due by November 6th for an upcoming public hearing, which I submitted to the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority as promised, following 2 storms this past summer. My letter discussed what I view to be an abysmal response for our residents to those storms by both Optimum and Cablevision and the United Illuminating Company. All correspondence in your packets is available to the public by simply making a request to Mrs. Shaw. Now I will ask, does anyone have any comments on the NEXUS golf proposal that they'd like to share with me?
I mean, I can, Beth. I was actually very intrigued by the proposal and think it's something that we definitely should consider. But I don't feel that we can consider it without having a plan for use of the entire property. And that, I think, feeds into your request to have a part-time town planner really assist us with quite a number of issues that we're facing right now. So I think it's a very interesting proposal and option. I'm glad that, Oak Lane felt that it was not really competitive with them. So it's offering a new and different type of experience. And it might draw a lot of people and offer an opportunity for people to come together, in a new way. So I think that we should let them know that there is definitely potential there, but it has to be within the scope of a larger plan.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Beth, I'll only add to that, just add a little bit to that. And I know that that's from what it did appear as if that what Sandy just mentioned, broader plan, is consistent with what they're talking about. And it certainly would, what they're planning certainly would fall very nicely into some of the goals that we've stated in the past as relates to a recreational area for our residents. So it is, the word that comes to mind is it's very intriguing. They're very passionate about it apparently. So now it's a matter of really ironing down and identifying what the real logistics are to go forward. But it's certainly something that I think we should at least look into and continue to understand better.
Thank you, Mika. Anyone else?
I agree, Beth. I agree. I think that it's an opportunity for us to reuse that property. And as Sandy said, we have to look at the overall use of that property, see how it fits.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dwight. Anyone else? Listening out there? Okay. Thank you very much, guys. We'll pass that along. Item 1A is the cell tower, 118 Newton Road. I'm going to ask Jerry Weiner to fill us in and give us an update on that, please. I've been, just so I can tell you guys, I've been reaching out constantly every time we get another property recommended to us, and we've been forwarding those to Attorney Baldwin. And we've passed along our plans to a big property in Bethany, so that will also, they might be interested as well. So we'll keep you for everything that we've gotten. We continue to pass forward. And now I'll turn to Jerry to give us sort of the legal update, please.
So very briefly, as you know, the Board of Selectmen voted at the last meeting to retain Attorney Ira Bloom, who's experienced with cell tower applications for various municipalities in the past, and he has begun his representation of us. I think he's had a couple of conversations with Verizon's attorney, as I have had during the past 3 or 4 weeks. We don't let them rest. We keep passing along new alternative sites. There are several sites that we think could be promising. One in particular, the water company land, that they haven't gotten back to us. The last they haven't said yes or no, but they're still exploring the possibilities of that property together with some others. The last conversation I had with Verizon's attorney, he said that they've come across a couple of parcels on their own that they are looking at and trying to see whether those are feasible. So, and again, he reiterated that they are in no rush to file an application. They want to take their time, be deliberate, and try and work something out with the town for a real viable alternative. So we have a lot of things happening. We also, I think you also have received tonight a proposal from a consultant. Did you get that? Did you all get that, Beth? Did Jerry Shaw send it out?
It went out late, but it did go out. Yes.
Yeah. So we just got that this afternoon.
Yeah. The name of the company, I think, is Isotope. It's labeled. Hopefully, you guys got it.
Yes, and he is someone who Ira Bloom is aware of and knows that they did some good work. I think actually in Orange a while ago. They didn't defeat the application in Orange, but after the Siting Council hearings, and I think Orange might have lost, I'm not sure, they worked something out on a compromise after the hearing. But this company does this kind of work, and I was interested to see on his resume that they actually did past work in Woodbridge, is one of the towns in Connecticut that they've cited as places, municipalities where they've done work. And the only thing I can remember is when we had anything to do with the cell tower was the concrete platforms that were installed a while ago, and the town did oppose those applications at the Siting Council. So I'm not certain, but I assume that's when he did his work for the town, which had to be 15 years ago. I'm not sure how many years ago, probably 10, 15 years ago. So Ira Bloom suggested that if we wanted to counter Verizon's arguments about feasibility, not feasible, location problems, we would need some technical advice. So we have his resume. He's ready to start work for us. I think we're probably a week or 2 or 3 weeks a little premature in retaining him, although I would agree with Ira that if we can't work something out amicably now, we really do need something. If the Board of Selectmen wants to pursue this and oppose the application, we will need some technical advice. So we do have that. And if anyone has some comments about it, just let me know and I'll pass it along to Ira. Ira asked whether he needed to come to tonight's meeting. And I said there's really nothing substantial that has happened since the last meeting. So I told him that we will let him know when we need to hear from him next time.
So Jerry, at this point, it's up to Verizon to continue to explore these sites, then get back to us, correct?
Correct.
And then at that point, should we, if they've finalized it, narrowed it down to 1 or 2, then we have an engineer available to look at what, what they think or what our engineer thinks of these several properties or whatever, and then we can begin sort of saying why we think it's not going to work or things like that. Correct?
Correct. And even if they come back and say that none of the alternate sites are acceptable, we can have this consultant look at those sites himself and tell us whether Verizon is right or wrong or whatever. But we will have some ability to challenge or to discuss those sites with some technical background.
Go ahead, Sandy.
So I have a question. What mechanism will we use to keep our town residents informed of where we are? Because again, we only have a regularly scheduled meeting once every month. And I think that this is top of mind for quite a few people. So could we discuss that or make some suggestions?
I will. I've been sending out weekly letters to them as to where we are, to all the people who've given us an email. And the last one went out October 29th. And I will send another one at the end of this week, giving an update as what happened at the Board of Selectmen meeting. And then if there's further, as soon as something we have to tell them, I send out an email. And I ask them to distribute it to folks that perhaps we don't have their emails, but they're interested in the issue. We send it out as they forward it to people. So it's pretty, I think there's how many names are there? Yeah, 300 names, something like that. I think Jerry Shaw got it.
It's fine. I think it's just important that the public knows that this is the mechanism you are using.
That's what
additionally, I'm sorry, Beth. Additionally, I noticed in the last couple, at least the newsletter and the newspaper, you're putting in updates on there as well. Right. So I take it that that's going to continue as well, correct?
Yes. Absolutely.
So that does seem like there's information getting out there. Right. Just a question I have for Jerry in terms of the consultant, the technical consultant that we're looking at. And you mentioned that we're probably weeks away from necessarily making a decision or hiring that person. For any particular, what's the rationale behind that? I'm just wondering if someone like that wouldn't help us in terms of identifying areas where we can focus in on and take a look at as opposed to waiting.
Well, it's a good point, Mika. I'm not, adamant about whether you hire him now, next week, or in 2 weeks. The only reason I said that is that there seems to be a lull in activity in that they are looking at the sites they have located, and they're looking at a few sites that we have given them and that we have not received any word back. If they come back and say, we're all set, we're going on the water company property and we have, we're not going on Newton Road, then I think we are going to be pretty happy and we don't need to spend the retainer that the technical guy has asked for or any hourly fees. But that's not cast in stone. If the board feels we need one now, we have no problem hiring. That was the only thing behind my thought. It might be a week or 2 premature, but we can always immediately hire him on a moment's notice, engage him, and he can get going that way. We
could certainly have a special Board of Selectmen meeting quickly if we had to do that one thing. If something pops up. But if the board's feeling is we should look at the contract this evening, it's not on the agenda. We'd have to vote to add it to the agenda, discuss it, and then make a decision. So anybody feeling we should do that tonight? Or should we wait?
I don't know that that's necessary. It's kind of what I tried to explain when they had their meeting is that my sense is that Verizon has been looking at this for years. And they came up with this location primarily because somebody was open to the idea of putting it there. It seems as if there was another town location, they would have notified us or something, so my sense is unless we do something deeper, unless we find, and the only way you're going to do that is through technical assistance, I believe. I don't know that we're going to get anywhere with them. They have what they need right now. So I wonder about their motivation is really what I'm saying. And sometimes you have to show that you have concrete information that says, hey, listen, I'm contesting what you're saying because here's what we're showing here in order to move forward a little bit.
Well, we've already mentioned to Verizon that we were looking at, I did a while ago, at a technical consultant to help us with this thing. So they know we're serious and they know the neighbors are serious and they know the extent of the opposition. And I'm giving that, I agree with you. We can't be completely satisfied that they're acting with good intentions, but they certainly seem like they're exploring a lot of stuff every time we ask them. Now, I don't know whether they're just placating us and saying we looked at it and nothing is good, but we can hire that technical guy at any time, or we can wait a week. It's up to the board.
As Beth said, I think if we needed to do it sooner, we can with a special meeting, but
Correct.
Just thought I'd bring that up.
Okay, great.
I'm happy. I don't, where do we, no, we'll find a night that we can all get together because what are we doing at night most of these days? We'll find something where we can make sure that this happens if we need to in a very short amount of time. We will stay tuned. I'm on this, I promise. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Okay, and I will get something out the end of this week about, just a letter to everyone with an update as to where we are and explaining about the consultant, et cetera, for those folks who aren't tuning in this evening. I still remain vehemently opposed to putting it at 118 Newton Road. That has not changed. Okay, thank you. I think we're all agreed. Okay, item 2 on the agenda. Thank you for your patience, Christine. I will introduce Woodbridge, Georgia Board of Education Interim Superintendent, Christine Syriac. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for letting me provide an opportunity to give an update as to what's occurring at Beecher Road School. The first thing I just want to mention as kind of a PSA to everyone listening tonight is about our school lunch program. Our school lunch program is currently free for the entire school year via the USDA Summer Food Service Program and Seamless Summer Option. So any of our students, remote or in person, are eligible to have free lunch for this entire school year. And in the past month, we have begun to see our participation rate in the school lunch program increase, which is positive for us as we begin to introduce hot lunches. So we really hope that other people will take advantage of this opportunity. Tomorrow, we have Veterans Day activities scheduled at Beecher Road School, and I thank you very much, First Select Person Heller, for the fact that you will be there, well, virtually, to participate. Our program has been changed a bit this year in part so that we can do virtual components as well as some live streaming from the South Assembly. So we look forward to that opportunity tomorrow for our students and staff. Al Pulo and I have begun to look at the 21-22 budget. The departments had to submit their proposals by the end of last week. So Al is currently reviewing that information, and then he and I will meet with the different department heads and discuss what their proposals are. The piece that I wanted to share this evening is that it is our intention as we build that budget that we are looking at the original 2021 staffing levels, and we are not looking to keep the additional positions that were added at the start of this school year. So we anticipate that as we build the program for next year, we will not need to include those positions. It is also our hope that we will be able to have the new superintendent participate in part of this decision-making and discussion process as well. And on that note, I will share that tomorrow evening, there is a special meeting of the Board of Education scheduled. They have 2 items on their agenda. One is a COVID status. They want to discuss what's happening at Beecher Road School in regard to the increased numbers of the infection rate in Woodbridge, as well as what our plan would be to address if numbers continue to increase. And the second agenda item is the appointment of the new superintendent. The Board of Education has a finalist, and they plan to make that appointment tomorrow evening. The next thing that I have is that I have been working in collaboration with the Public Health Department, as have all the BOA superintendents. We work in collaboration with QVHD as well as the Orange Health Department. And we have all made the decision that the week after the Thanksgiving break will be all remote for all students. The reason why we reached that decision had to do with the fact that it's our anticipation that many families and staff members will travel over that weekend. And if they travel to travel ban states when they return and they get their testing done, they cannot return to work until they have their test results. And therefore, we were anticipating the possibility of staffing shortages, as well as with different social gatherings occurring that have not been as common of late. We do have a concern about the spread of infection. So having the 5 days of all remote learning provides the opportunity for people to have testing done, as well as an opportunity that if someone were to become infected, for symptoms to show, so that that was not happening while school was in session. We've been extremely successful with our mitigation factors that we have had in place since the start of school. It is our intention that we would return to in-person learning after that week of all remote, and we didn't want that long weekend to be a reason that would throw us off from that path. And then the last thing that I have this evening is when we spoke last month, there had been discussion about having an opportunity to look at the COVID-related expenditures that Woodbridge has incurred due to the pandemic on a one-page sheet. So Al Pulo was able to create a one-page document that includes all of the expenditures that occurred in regard to COVID that we have thus far. And then there are additional columns after that that explain where the funds to offset those costs are coming from. And I believe that you have that document in the packet that was provided. However, last night at the Board of Education Finance meeting, it was reviewed, and Tom Heller did also provide some feedback to make some changes to this. So as each month progresses, we can update the form to best suit the needs of the individuals looking at it. But the very positive news that I wanted to share is that when I shared this information last month, it was a $132,000 or $136,000 that the budget was overrun, and currently that number is at 104,000. We were able to find $32,000 in savings this past month. That was primarily due to a hiring that we had still had to do, and the person came in at a number that was lower than what had been budgeted previously for that position. So we will continue to look for potential savings to continue to reduce that $104,000. We will be looking in utilities. We will be looking in consumable supplies. We will be looking at spending freezes in some categories, such as possibly instructional supplies or professional learning. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Christine? I don't know if I got that report or not. There were so many pieces of paper coming through. So did you guys get it?
No.
It did not come with our packet,
Okay.
but it is available on the CABE website.
Okay.
Yeah, I did not, if I received it, I missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Maybe, Christine, you could just send a copy of that one sheeter to Jerry Shaw tomorrow and she'll forward it out to us.
That'd be
I
great.
Absolutely do that.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you.
Also, did I understand that you indicated the plan was to go back to full-time school after the week break, the full remote after Thanksgiving? Did I misunderstand there?
So that is, no, okay, so the week directly after Thanksgiving will be all remote learning for
Remote,
the
yes.
entire week. And then December 7th, it would currently be our intention to return to full in-person learning. However, the board is having a conversation tomorrow night, and I will continue to have weekly meetings with the health department to discuss what's happening in regard to the infection rate and if we need to make changes to our learning plan or not.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we move on to item 3, liaison reports. Let's see, why don't we start at the back this time? I'll call on Sandy first.
The Library Commission did not meet this month, and that is really all I have. Christine gave a wonderful update for the Board of Ed.
Thank you, Sandy. Dwight?
I was not able to attend the Human Services meeting last night, but I did chime in on the Inland Wetlands meeting that was held on Wednesday, October 21st. There were only a few items on the agenda. There's an application in to construct a single-family home on 24 Center Road. Apparently, there's 3.3 acres. About 1/3 of it is wetlands, and they asked the engineer who they retained, to visit the site, to give them some input and to bring it back at the next meeting. And then under old business on 21 Wolf Tree Drive, that was put on hold, and they'll deal with it at the next meeting. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dwight. Is Joe Dye with us? Has he joined yet, Betsy? No. Okay. Joe Crisco.
Yes, good evening. Before I give my report on planning and zoning, I just wanted to inform the board that I have received numerous calls from people about motorized bikes and mopeds and carts being used on the trail at the Woodbridge Country Club. And it was suggested that the town put up a sign saying these vehicles are prohibited from being used. I don't know if you could work that out, Beth.
We will certainly give it our best shot. Thank you.
In regards to meetings, on November 2nd, planning and zoning met, and there are 2 items that I'd like to inform the board on. One, there is an application for an active adult community to be on Bradley Road, and there are certain requirements, but before the commission could take action, it has to be reviewed by the Regional Planning Commission, and that will be done, and the item will be kept open until the next meeting in December. The other item was a change to zoning regulations. Presently, there is stacking of parking spaces permitted for single homes, that is one vehicle behind another. The commission took action to allow stacking to be allowed at multi-family homes also. And that completes my report.
Thank you very much, Joe. Mika.
Participated in the GATV meeting this past month, and there was discussion in regards to the Channel 79 content, and there was discussion about the business profiles being put on it, and they're discussing and reviewing and evaluating whether that type of content would be appropriate for the channel, considering it's what it's primarily for. There was also discussion in regard to the staff pay schedule. They reviewed the budget for 2022 and set up the schedules for next month. Additionally, there was some discussion as relates to resources, staffing resources, which continues to be somewhat of a challenge in getting people to even with everything being remote, or maybe because of. So additionally, I was late, but I did attend the last part of the EDC meeting, which was primarily related to the survey that they're doing about the survey for residents about businesses, and the property owner meeting. But not much to report as far as they're still working on that, and they will, that it will continue. And Betsy will help me out if there's anything that I missed prior to that. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item 4, the Thomas Darling House Advisory Committee report. Dick Blackwell, is he here yet?
He's here, and I just unmuted him.
Okay. There he is. Good evening, Dick.
Hi, Beth.
Thank you for all of your efforts, and the floor is now, or I don't know if it's a floor, or I would say the computer is now yours.
Can you see me at all?
Yes, we can. We see your ceiling and your head. You could move the monitor just forward a little, and we could see more of your head. But you look fine. We see you.
My head's not anything to be proud of. Anyway, I'm pleased with the progress we've made toward preserving the Darling House property since last month, especially since it's been accomplished through the joint cooperation of the Amity-Woodbridge Historical Society, the town of Woodbridge, and the committee, as visualized in your photographs that I took last Thursday when I was out at the property. And the first one dealing with grounds cleanup, I want to show this. This is the first one. And as you can see, the rotting trees, there were a total of 6, and you can see one of them there. Limbs and overbrush have been removed by Chris Carson's crew, enabling an unobstructed view of the Darling House from the Litchfield Turnpike. You can see there's a clear view now of the Darling House from the road. It used to be, you just saw a bunch of brush, and then peeking through the overbrush was the house. The second photo shows the front door of the house. The front door of the house is on the side of the house. That's your second photo. You can see the more visible picket fence and overhanging rotten limbs that were overhanging the house have been removed by Chris's crew. Then the society has done an excellent job of pruning the lilac tree. You can see a bush in the back and other shrubs. Okay, third photo here. This is the backyard area. It shows a beautiful cleanup of the entire backyard by the town of Woodbridge and the society, and the freshly painted exterior of the privy and the pig house by the society. Did a beautiful job. And then also they've cleaned it inside. You can see the 2 little toilet seats inside the privy, and then you can see where in the pig barn where the feed went down into the trough, which is really interesting. The trough is a hollowed out log. It's fascinating. The fourth photo, this one here, shows the chicken coop, and it just demonstrates the hard work the society has done in beautifully painting the exterior and eliminating the rotting, dangerous overhang. If you remember the pictures we looked at in February, you can recall, I think, the way it used to look. Okay. The fifth photo, which is this one, it shows the stone wall bordering the Litchfield Turnpike north of the house. That's a couple of 100 feet there, here where the people park to go hiking. And Chris's crew removed a number of rotting trees on the wall, and overbrush. Not seen is there was a heritage rose bush hedge, and the society removed all the overgrowth in that. It's back to the 18th century. It's white roses, and now come next spring, everybody will be able to enjoy it. Okay, the next category is schoolhouse removal. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Before I want to show you this. This is a sixth picture. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this. This is the backside of the barn where there used to be a green, or there still is a green tarp. And Chris's crew removed all the overgrowth, and you couldn't even see the side of the barn before. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's very interesting. There's a round stone silo used to house grain that dates back a couple of hundred years. You can see the outline of it, the stone foundation of the circular silo. Okay, schoolhouse removal. Last Friday, Chris's crew and the town of Woodbridge personnel removed the schoolhouse from the cow barn. Sam Candle, a resident of Woodbridge, has taken the entire schoolhouse and intends to reassemble it on his property and has signed the required waivers, so the town has no liability. Chris's crew transported and unloaded the schoolhouse onto Mr. Candle's yard last Friday. As the schoolhouse was being removed, as shown in the last photo, let me show you this. This is one of the vehicles used to remove it. And Chris did an outstanding job. I mean, there were huge pieces of the schoolhouse with windows in them. And Chris did an amazing job of removing all those and keeping them intact. And there were several society members. I think 5 members were on hand to inventory the property in the barn. And it was including various Darling family possessions, farm implements that they've been using over the centuries, seeders, wooden plows, and seed planters. And there are 2 18th century horse-drawn sleighs in there, and this is one of them. That's a 18th, early 19th century horse-drawn sleigh that's in the barn that we now have access to. We can, removing all the other beautiful antiques out of the barn now. And just a suggestion, it would be wonderful, and it's just, the society, of course, has possession of the sleigh, but if there's any way we could remove it and put it on display for the holiday season in front of the house, put a Christmas tree in it or something like that, which is the society's decision, but and have it secured so no one can swipe it. But removing the schoolhouse has enabled the society to conduct a structural engineering study on the cow barn. The grant that was just recently awarded to the society will also fund structural engineering studies on the ice and horse barns, so all 3. And those studies will be anticipated to be conducted in this coming spring. The picket fence, as you can see, the overbrush in your previous pictures had been removed. And I had sent a formal request to fund the restoration work. And I've been informed that being solicited and work will probably be done this coming spring. So that'll be spruced up and nice and white. The society and committee, Todd Levine coordination. Todd Levine suggested at our last committee meeting, he manages Connecticut Preservation, that we work together to optimize grant and other funding sources. He suggested we leverage the town media and encourage volunteers to help with important projects. To ensure an effective work process, as committee chair, I'll ensure that all presentations by the committee to the board are reviewed by the society and their perspectives conveyed to the board. Also, Rick Weiss, who's our pro bono consultant, provides unique expertise regarding funding sources that are essential for restoring the 1773 cow barn, ice barn, and horse barn. Rick will coordinate his efforts with the society to ensure synergy and avoid duplication of effort. Restoration work will be costly and ongoing, but provide tremendous benefits in expanding our understanding of a successful colonial era household and farm. In closing, I'd appreciate any suggestions or comments the board may have.
Anyone have any comments? I'm so impressed with how everything's working well.
It's very impressive what's being done out there. That's great. It's great to see, and particularly in light of everyone working together to get it done. So thanks very, very much.
Thanks, Nick. I hope the board can drive by and take a look. You know, the backyard is amazing. I mean, just to see it's so beautiful. You know, the original Darling Farm went all the way to West Rock, you know, the mountain in the background there. And you can get a beautiful view of the whole back there. And there's so much beauty there now.
It's lovely. Thank you very much, Dick.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your update. Let's see, what time is it? 5:47. Jerry, did we receive any public comments as of 3 o'clock today?
No, I received no public comments as of 3 o'clock today.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, moving on. Item 6 on the agenda is the farmland leases, and action is appropriate. Just get to that page here. I hope you have all received a list of the 2021 growing season requests. I will add that normally we do these January, February-ish, early winter, midwinter. But as requested by the farmers last year, we decided to do it in the fall. We're still in the fall until December 21st, so we got it in. We're going to try to do it last month. It just didn't happen. But the idea is so that the farmers can purchase their materials and things. They tend to be cheaper priced in the fall rather than in the spring or early or midwinter. So with that in mind, that's why we're doing it, and hopefully in the future we'll always get these done in October and November. So with that being said, there's in your packet a request from Tim Chris Sorensen, Keith Arnold, and Christina and Oliver Holland. Jerry Weiner, do I need to read all these or?
No, I don't think I think everybody has it in their packet. I think that's enough.
Okay, there's one question. Well, why don't we take the first one first? Let's start with the Tim Chris request for A, B, C, D. There's 3 on Litchfield Turnpike, the Zwick property. And let's talk about that one first. And I know Sandy has a question about that.
So the 1907 Litchfield Turnpike is basically the Darling House. It's the side of the road that has the Darling House on it. And I would recommend that we defer any decision at this point about farming on that property until we get some input from the Historical Society and from the Advisory Committee. I think they're both working hard on this, and they may have some different ideas of what they would like to see happen in those fields, and we should offer them that opportunity.
I would concur with that. Anybody else have any comments on that one? Okay, so when we vote, I guess we can vote for all of them at the same time unless Mr. Weiner tells me we can't.
You can do them all at the same time, and you can just leave this one out of the package.
All right, when I make the motion, I'll do that. And Chris Sorensen is asking for 1910 Litchfield, and he also mows the Meese property. Keith Arnold has the Fitzgerald and Peck Hill Road properties, and Christina and Oliver Holland at 48 Center Road would like to, it's a Leggy property, 160 Peace Road and north of 52 Center, which they have a wonderful farming operation there. So I know that they had asked in their packet, the Hollands request that the town consider a 5-year lease to allow them to apply for agricultural grants. That has come up before, and my advice is, and if you disagree, shout it out, but my thought is, why don't we refer that to our soon-to-be Agricultural Commission for discussion and opinion on that?
I think that's a good idea, Beth, because I think that it can't be a one property by property decision. It should be something that we consider as a whole for everyone.
Sounds good.
And to that end, it would be good to know what the turnover or changes have been on this, because I think that would weigh in significantly. If we're basically doing the same thing for the same folks every year, it stands to reason. So just a thought.
Sure. Okay. So with that in mind, we can continue to discuss that. I will make a motion that we approve the summary of request for lease of farmland 2021 and with the request attached as presented in your packet, with a removal of item C under Tim Crizz's request, and asking that be referred to the Amity Woodbridge Historical Society and the Thomas Darling Advisory Committee for discussion, and asking them to get back to us for the December meeting with their opinions on that property. Other than that, I'll motion that all of the rest be approved as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or comment on that, please?
Just a cool question. Again, does this differ at all in terms of anything that we've done? Is there any point of interest here that goes beyond just what we've seen?
That's a Jerry Shaw question. She's got that knowledge.
No, this is the same as has been going on for quite some years.
Okay.
And it's the same families.
Wonderful. So I will.
And Beth, one more thing.
Oh, sure, Dwight.
Yeah, shouldn't we also defer the Holland's request for a 5-year lease and send it to the Ag Commission?
That's what I just said a few minutes ago.
Well, I didn't hear it in your motion, but that's fine.
Okay, as part of the motion. Very good idea.
Just out of curiosity, if there was an opportunity for a particular grant where something like that was required, what would be necessary on our part if we vote on the leases for the 1 year now? What would be required on our part to consider that? You know, if somebody puts in a grant, but they need a 3-year or 5-year lease in order to get the grant, is that something we could change or consider?
I think it would have to be for next year, but I have to ask Jerry.
I think I agree with you, Beth. It would have to be for next year.
Okay.
This is a 1 year right now, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Anyone have else in the comments? So I would ask you all to just signify what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask if everyone approves, just raise your hand.
I'll say aye.
Aye.
And I think Joe Dye is here as well. He's here. Yep.
Aye.
Okay. Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Okay, item 7 on the agenda is the Administrative Officer Director of Finances report. Tony, you're up.
Thank you, Beth. Hello, everybody. I have a report through October of 2020, and that is a projected year-end deficit of $213,000. As you all know, we have a $400,000 contribution from fund balance in our budget process, so that would mean that at the end of the year, our fund balance would be reduced by $613,000. That would leave us at just about $6 million, or 11.8% of our budget. In our revenues, our taxes are doing well. They're doing slightly better than last year. It's something we keep an eye on very closely, and so we continue to trend ahead of the last few years, actually, with our tax collections. Our interest income is doing very poorly, mainly because it's tied very closely to short-term rates, and short-term rates are very low, about 0.07, 0.08%. Where that is, considering we did the budget, it was about 0.5% or 50 basis points. You can see that has dropped quite a bit since then.
Tony, is the projection for 110,000, is that based on what we see happening with the trend, or is that based just on what we've lost so far?
So that's in my projection, I'm hoping that the rates increase a bit in the fall, this spring. Okay. So if we just flatlined it where we are right now, it'd be maybe 150. But I'm hoping that we're going to capture a little. I mean, can't go any lower, quite honestly. And so I'm hoping that goes up just a little. So,
Thank you.
yeah. As Beth indicated earlier, we just found out yesterday that we were going to be reimbursed $70,000 from the Coronavirus Relief Fund and $36,000 from FEMA for our COVID expenses through June 30th. So that's good news. We were able to get all of our information in, and we didn't have any issues with our application. So it went very well. Kelly did an excellent job with that. We are still keeping trying to get an update on the possible reimbursement for Isaias. We haven't heard anything past an initial stage. As I understand it, FEMA is very busy with their COVID applications and have not actually gotten to this yet. So we will stay tuned on that. We have probably roughly $200,000 in expenditures, mostly related to debris cleanup, debris removal, and overtime during the event related to public safety. Finally, our department charges should have a deficit of about $70,000, mostly in transfer station fees. I am hopeful that we will pick some of that deficit up, although I did not project it, in some of our other categories, particularly our town clerk fees, conveyance fees, building permits continue to do very well. As you've all heard, based on home sales and other metrics, those particular revenues are doing very well. So,
Tony, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Would it be prudent for us to reconsider the fees for the bulky waste at some point? I mean, I know why we didn't go ahead with it.
Right. At some point, yes, it would be. You should revisit it, particularly with the scale and the ability to, have a resident pay more equitably to what they are disposing.
Correct.
So that's sort of the idea. But yeah, that's something you could review at a later date. I think would be a good idea.
So I think maybe a recommendation from you as to when you think we should reconsider that would be really helpful.
Okay.
Because it not only helps the budget, but I think it's more equitable.
Right.
And we didn't do it because of COVID and didn't want to really raise anybody's amount that they had to pay for any kind of service. But I think we're evolving into a new situation and should at least consider that.
And also there are some towns, which I think is something to definitely consider, where you only have a fee enacted if the tonnage is above a certain tonnage. So if somebody's bringing in small items, there's not necessarily a fee unless they're bringing in a truckload of shingles or something where it's going to be very expensive. Then we could. Some towns a lot of towns actually do that, where there's anything below, say, 500 pounds is free.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. On our expenditures, so we're still working through the election expenditures and the most notably the staffing portion of that. We do have some grants that have come in, $12,000 in grants to offset that. So we will. I will work with the registrar and the town clerk to analyze both their budgets and determine what is necessary for the remainder of the year, particularly if it's election related, would be for the spring May election. Make sure that each department has enough in their budget to handle the responsibilities during that time. And so we may come for a transfer next month. I was hoping to do it this month, but timing of it was such that we probably need a little more time to figure out exactly how much they need. We continue to generate a surplus in benefits. We're doing very well in our workers' compensation premium. We've had a good experience there recently, but also in healthcare, we've had some changes in benefit structures that have gone in our favor. And so conservatively, we're about $70,000 surplus in that department. And finally, the Woodbridge Board of Education, which was reported earlier, is a deficit of $103,000. So that was down from $136,000 last month. Those are the major highlights. Any other questions or?
Great, thank you. On to item B, which is tax refunds in your packet. We have a report from Pat Crisco dated 11/6/2020. There's a total of $12,155.07 to be refunded. This comes primarily from motor vehicle refunds. There were no real estate or personal property refunds, so I will motion that we approve this. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. That covers that. Funding requests. Whoops, flip the page here. Sorry, guys.
There are no new funding requests this month.
Oh, yes, there are.
The only funding request we have is the one that held over from last month.
Okay. Oh, okay. It's not new. You're right. Okay, thank you. This is line item transfer number 2021-07 in the amount of $10,000 to hire a part-time planner to assist the town with addressing planning needs, including use of the Country Club of Woodbridge property, housing matters, and assist with long-range planning. And before we talk about this further, I have a statement to read, if that's okay with everyone. Please indulge me. I'm sorry about my cat. She's mewing in the background here. Should we choose to hire a town planner? Some ideas that I've come up with as to reasons why I think this is a very important thing to do. He or she could create a plan to determine the long-term use for the town-owned former Country Club of Woodbridge property, revitalize the town's business district, work on planning and implementation of the town's streets plan, help us coordinate with the federal government on the terrible flooding issues in Lower Woodbridge, help work on the state-required creation of an affordable housing plan, and add support to the ad hoc 2030 task force. Town planners not only plan how to best use land while being mindful of big picture issues like tax revenue, recreation, and open space needs, they also implement plans and stay on top of regional and statewide issues. In our small town, these are all important things, and none of these issues fall clearly into anyone's job description. Instead, they haphazardly land in the laps of either Tony or Betsy, actively versus proactively. Betsy and Tony, who are tasked with a variety of other duties at all times, it puts a greater burden on them, their already full list of duties. As I said before, I believe that this position is very important if we want to see thoughtful movement on improving our town for all residents through an expanded tax base, a thriving business district, diversified housing options, and safe streets and more. So thank you for that. So I'll make a motion and then we can have a discussion on approval of, wait, I gotta make the motion. That we approve line item transfer number 2021-07 in the amount of $10,000 from the general professional services to part-time clerical in the amount of $10,000, as I said. Is there a second? I think Joe Crisco gave us a second. Okay, thank you. And I'll open it up for discussion and questions.
I mean, I think, Beth, as I expressed before, there is plenty of work for someone who has this knowledge and expertise to do in the town right now. And I think it's very important that we augment the skill set available to the town to deal with these issues, to offer us advice, and to then translate that into implementation. So I would definitely support this. It's hard to imagine that $10,000 is going to be enough, but at least this is a start. And if we see that this is something that really needs more robust funding, we will have to come back and reconsider that. But thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you. I don't go away, right? I kept going. Also, I neglected to mention in your packet, there's also the town of Woodbridge job description. Should we go forward with this? That was also in the packet. I won't read it again, but if anyone would like to see it, it is public. I can get that out to anyone that would like it. So anyone have any other comments? Hearing none, I will call the question. We have a second, correct, Betsy?
Correct.
Okay, I will call the question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone abstaining? Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you very, very much. This is going to go a long way for us. I think Tony and Betsy agree, right? Thumbs up, guys. Whew, a little relief. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is the bid awards. Tony, maybe you can take this one, please.
Sure. We went out to bid for sodium chloride, which is basically salt for our roads. We do this every year. And we received 4 bids, actually 3 bids and 1 no bid. Typically a firm will, if they're not interested in bidding this particular year, they will send us a no bid so that we remain on their bid list, on our bid list, and so that we contact them next year when it's time to bid. The winning bid was Champion Salt at $58.08 per ton. And they have positive references. We've never actually used them, but they're used widely in the area. And they have, which is important, they have a supply locally so that we can guarantee the supply in a storm. You don't have to worry about salt coming from Massachusetts or something.
Hey, Tony?
Yes.
Tony, how does this compare with last year's?
It's a little higher. It's a few dollars higher. Last year was the mid 50s. So it's a commodity basically. So some years, I remember some years it was in the 70s. You know, it just depends on the availability of the salt in the
Okay. Anyone have any other questions? I'll motion approval of bid 2021-02 for sodium chloride road salt that you have in your packet and award it to Champion Salt in the amount of $58.08 per ton.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sandy. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimously. Moving on to the next item, which is brush grinding 2021-01. Tony, you're on.
Thank you, Beth. This is if you recall, we did brush grinding earlier in the year, and maybe in July we did brush grinding, not realizing that we would have a storm and have a lot more brush to remove. So we had to go out again to bid, and we received 2 bids for the large pile back in the Public Works. If you've ever seen it, it's a huge pile of brush. And so we received 2 bids. One was from the low bid was Running Brook Farms, Killingworth. That's $33,000, which we had done some preliminary estimates on this, and that's actually a very good price. Very pleased with that result. We hope to apply for a FEMA reimbursement for all or most of this when the time becomes, hopefully. In the meantime, we have to remove the brush.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you.
Tony, do we do this differently simply because, I'm sorry, we have to, go ahead, Beth.
No, I just said thank you, Tony. You're up, Mika. Sorry.
I'm just curious because I know obviously there's brush that is brought into the transfer station that we dispose of as well.
Right.
And how does this differ? It's just because it's more massive amount, or? Correct.
It's a huge amount. We have to do it a little differently. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll grind it on site and then use the wood chips around town. It's such a large amount of brush that wasn't something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll move approval of bid number 2021-01 for brush grinding, awarding the bid to Running Brook Farms, as they are the current low bidder in the amount of $33,000 from Storm ICAs, and town hopes to apply for FEMA reimbursement. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Further questions or discussion on this? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any abstentions? Any nay vote? And it's passed. And my favorite part of the night. Tony, do you have any other?
No other.
Okay. Item 8 on the agenda is the Assistant Administrative Officer's report. Myself.
Good evening, everybody. In your packet tonight, you'll notice that we have 2 applications for using town land, but one of them has been withdrawn. So we're only going to discuss the Woodridge Park Association request to use the former country club as a race location. This is something that's been requested and approved in the past. We originally were going to do a race in November, but we're not able to pull it together and have decided to do it in December instead. And they're looking to also do some kind of Toys for Tot type donation in addition to the race. And just for your information, the Department of Public Health has categorized cross-country running as a, quote, lower risk sport. And phase 2.1 guidelines state that outdoor events at commercial venues are limited to 100 people. And the application states that they're anticipating approximately 60 to 70 people.
Thank you very much, Betsy. Does anyone have any questions on this? The application, as Betsy said, is in your packet. Hopefully you all had a chance to review it. Hopefully in December they'll have weather enough to be able to do this. Wish them luck.
All right. I move approval of the application.
Second.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Sandy. Wonderful. Other questions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Any nays? Any abstentions? Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. And then item B is the sponsor agreement.
Right. So I'm looking for approval to sign on to the emergency shelter use agreement. This was discussed last month. If you'll remember, following Tropical Storm Isaias, Human Services Director Jeanette Glickman and I began to look for alternative or additional shelter locations. Due to the pandemic and required social distancing, our ability to shelter people at the center building is limited. So we've reached out to both schools to explore the issue. And so far we've gotten as far as this agreement with Beecher. It was reviewed by Jerry Weiner and the school's facilities committee. They raised the question if this would change the building's risk category. And I spoke with Building Inspector Andy Rizzo, who's reviewed the issue and told me he has no safety concerns about putting a temporary shelter in the school.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions regarding this agreement for the emergency shelter at Beecher Road School? I noticed that there are several initials that have to be made, as well as a signature by both the town of Woodbridge and Beecher Road School, by the Woodbridge Board of Education. So just to move things along, I'll make actually I can't because I'm the one signing it. Somebody else want to make the motion?
I'll make the motion. Second.
To approve the Board of Ed and the First Selectman signing this, correct? Okay. And there's a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, guys. Any other discussion or questions on this? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Thank you, everyone. Moving on.
Thank you.
Personnel Committee report. Let's see. The Personnel Committee met. Tony, better you take this one. I'm forgetting.
The Personnel Committee met on October 28th, and the first item up for a review is filling the assessor's position. Betsy has retired and continues to work on a part-time basis to assist us, particularly while we're going through our putting together the grand list information, and said that she would help us transition to a new assessor. So we have gone out to advertise the position. Actually, we had to go out several times, and after reviewing all the candidates, we recommended, and the Personnel Committee approved hiring Marcia Benno, as our new assessor. Marcia is currently the assessor in Ansonia and has been a deputy assessor in Milford and a property appraiser in Stratford. So she comes with a lot of experience. She is currently a certified municipal assessor level 2, which is somewhat difficult to get. And as I understand, she was just named the Connecticut, the New Haven municipal assessors president. I believe it's the New Haven chapter. So we would like to recommend Marcia for that position, salary of $93,500. And Marcia has agreed to also perform in-house reval for a stipend of $10,000, which as you all probably know or would like to explain, is that she does all the inspections in-house, helps, as opposed to hiring a firm, which some towns do, and which we used to do in the past, which is a lot costlier. And a lot of people that don't know the town very well will come in and do a mass inspection. And this way, the assessor will get to know the town in this case, and it's an in-house evaluation, which she'll do over time. So that's worked very well for us in the past. So that's our recommendation.
I'd like to move that we hire Marcia Benno as our next town assessor at the salary and additional subsidy that Tony mentioned in his report.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Any further questions or discussions for Tony? And what's the starting date, Tony? I forgot that.
The starting date was probably close to mid-December.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. She's got to let the other folks know it's at her.
Right.
I'm just so glad that we found someone.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony.
Wonderful. Good job. Okay,
Your insistence paid off.
Yes.
Great.
Someone who's very well qualified too, Tony. Nicely done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So I'll call the question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any abstentions? None. Any opposition? None. Done. Wonderful. That's good to know. That gets us through another hurdle. And second on the list, we have we'll call it now the blight control officer. But I understand we discussed in personnel, maybe a different name for that. But in the meantime, that's what's listed on the agenda and actions appropriate. And Tony, if you want to discuss this one, that would be great. I'm excited about this.
Sure. So this is another position that we wanted to fill. As you recall, the funding was done at the last meeting. And so we went through the process of trying to find someone with experience who can work as our part-time blight officer. And we have received a resume and actually have interviewed Mike Morganski. If you know Mike is has worked in Woodbridge for quite a long time as a paramedic for AMR. And he also is currently works on a part-time basis as a enforcement official in Seymour. And part of that responsibility, along with inland wetlands and zoning, is what they call property maintenance. And as opposed to blight, it's a property maintenance officer, but it's the same skill set where Mike has to review blighted properties and try to, have them be in conformance with their blight ordinance. And he had quite an extensive list of properties that he showed us and experience in this area. And we think he has the right personality and approach for this, which could be a difficult position.
Tony, can you remind us how many hours a week this person will work?
So we currently have it budgeted for 8 hours a week and $30 an hour.
Okay.
And so again, this is similar to planning position, is we're not exactly sure, this one, we have a little more of an idea, but we're going to see, kind of how busy Mike is, and we'll report back.
Mm-hmm. Another question is that what would it take to kind of change the name of this position? I know it's identified in our blight ordinance, but I think it has such a quote negative connotation.
Right.
That I actually like the property maintenance title.
Right.
It's really what it is. And I don't know if something in the ordinance needs to change, or we can just change the title of the position.
It's a good question for Jerry. Do you know, Jerry?
You know, offhand, that is a very good question. I don't think we have to change the ordinance. The ordinance. I think we just name the title, make clear that it is just a change of title, no change of responsibilities, and no change of duties that's set forth in the ordinance. And I think we'd be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Dwight, do you have any comments from personnel as well on this?
No, we're all set. I mean, we walked through it during the meeting, so we were all satisfied.
Thank you. So want to make the motion, Sandy, with the new title?
Yes, I am.
Yay.
I'd like to make a motion that we hire Michael Margansky for 8 hours a week, $30 an hour, as our property maintenance officer for the town, who is basically authorized under our blight ordinance for the work that he would do.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other comments or discussions on this? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Wonderful. Any abstentions? Any nays? Wonderful. That'll be a welcome addition to our group.
Definitely. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for all your work on this, Tony.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you. Item 10 on the agenda is appointments. And first on the agenda, we have Agricultural Commission. 2 positions to 2021 and 3 to 2023. I guess you have in your packet what resumes we could gather forth. And I know that a couple of you have had discussions about this prior to this evening. And we think we have a pretty good commission put together. There is also in your packet a copy of the Agricultural Commission ordinance, which was enacted pre-COVID. That's all I remember. When we were actually in person, it's described what the establishment is, the purpose, the membership, and the duties and powers. Oh, it was adopted February 22nd, 2020. Right, pre-COVID. Okay, good. So with that being said, I guess I will call on Mika first. Do you have any nominations? And then I'll ask Dwight to present some as well, please. But go ahead, Mika. Mika, you might be muted, or are you here?
We seem to have lost him.
Oops.
Yeah. Okay. The assessor gets $93,000.
Okay. Well, why don't I go ahead and present what Mika was going to, unless is he dialing back in, Betsy?
I don't see any attempts. I just see someone once they've arrived, so I'm going to send him a text.
Okay. So Chris Sorensen was nominated. You have in your packet papers from each one of resumes or CVs from these folks, or letters, depending on what we have. And Andrea Urbano. She has a long resume here. We'll keep going with pages. Wow. I'll get to the back of this in a minute. Donald Lockyer. Is that the one, Dwight?
No, we're not. I already talked to Mika.
All right, you know what, Dwight, why don't you do this? Because I'm not up to speed. I apologize. You guys worked it out.
All right.
Beth, can you hear me?
Mika.
Oh, Mika just got on. Okay.
Okay.
Mika, Dwight, go ahead. Mika, Dwight's gonna.
I apologize, my computer crashed, so.
Okay, Dwight's gonna talk a little bit about what you guys talked about this afternoon. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, Mika and I discussed Chris Sorensen, from the farm, Steve Holland, Leland Torrance Jr., and Andrea Urbano as the 5 nominees.
Thank you. Are there 2 of them that are going to go for the 2-year and then 3 of them for the 3-year? Do you have a recommendation regarding that?
Well, what Mika has, what he was planning and we're okay with, it was Andrea Urbano would be 21 Steve Holland would be 21, and then the other 3 would be 23.
It's Steve Munno. Steve Munno from
Yeah, I think
Taro.
Munno would
Steve.
be here.
And then it's Christine Holland is the other one.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
It's Christina Holland.
Christina. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So with all of those folks listed with the years that said presenting habits, would someone like to make a motion for all of that to go forward?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I already made a motion.
Thank you. Anyone have any other comments or questions? I thank you all for working on this together.
Excuse me, who seconded that motion?
Let's go.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, we have the 5 appointees and they will hit the ground running. Mika's going to be liaison to that committee. I thank him for commission. Thank him for doing that. And with that, they'll elect their own chair. And so I guess I'll call the question. Sorry. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any abstentions? Any opposition? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, item 11 on the agenda, I will make a motion that we acknowledge receipt of the town clerk's report presented in your packet.
Beth, did you forget an appointment?
Oh my gosh, my friend. Thank you. I do this all the time. Thank you. Item B under appointments is the Fire Commission to June 30th, 2023. This is created by the resignation of Aaliyah Alexiadis from the Fire Commission, who has since moved out of town. So with that being said, Mika, would you like to make a nomination? Dwight?
Stephanie Charleglia. I'd like to nominate Stephanie as the as a new member of the Fire Commission.
I will second that. Anyone have any other nominations? Any discussion? All in favor, appointing Stephanie through June 30th, 2023. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any abstentions or opposition? Hearing none, Stephanie's the newest member of the Fire Commission. Okay. Thank you, Jerry. Okay. Item 11 now. I will motion that we approve the receipt of the reports from the town clerk through October 31st, 2020, and the other one for the annual, both of them, they're both in here in your packets. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on these? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition or abstentions? That passes unanimously. Minutes. You have in your packet a copy of the minutes of the October 14th, 2020 regular meeting. I will motion that we approve them. Is there a second?
Second.
Anyone have any corrections, abstention, changes, anything they'd like done on those October 14th minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Any opposition? Okay, those are done. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of October 20th, 2020 special meeting. I'll motion that we approve them as presented. Is there any comments, questions, or changes? Hearing none. Is there a second? Thanks, Sandy. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor of these minutes being approved, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions or opposition? Passes unanimously. Wow, did I skip anything else? Okay, we're up to item 13, which is the town council's report. And I will call on town council, Jerry Weimer.
Yes, thank you, Beth. So just a couple of points under 13B of my report, active adults community, and I believe Joe Crisco commented a little bit about this application. that is being presented by the owner of the property on Bradley Road. Steve Wise is the owner of the property that is known as the Woodbridge Village. Steve, as you remember, 9 years ago, received permission to do a project encompassing active adult townhouses as well as retail space, having a town green, and it covered property on both the north side and the south side of Bradley Road. Steve has entered into a contract with the developer to establish a facility, a building for New England Brewery, which has outgrown its space on Amity Road, has been looking for new space and wants to stay in Woodbridge. And he's chosen, happily chosen to stay on Bradley Road. Doug Gray is the individual working with the brewery, and he is the individual that's going to be constructing the facility for New England Brewery. So Steve Wise has a contract to sell the property on the north side of Bradley Road to be used for the New England Brewery. It's about 8 acres.
Jerry, I think it's the south side.
Oh, maybe at the south side is going to be the brewery. The north side is going to be the adult community. Correct, Beth. So on the north side will be an active adult community in the remaining 7 acres that Mr. Wise will still retain. These projects go hand in hand. They're working together. The New England Brewery has filed an application with the Zoning Board of Appeals, which was heard last night, for the several variances, including the width of the driveway, the height of the building, because it needs to be a little higher than our regulations permit because of the tower that goes into doing the brewery facility, as well as a sign variance. And there were 5 variances altogether. It was presented to the ZBA, and last night the ZBA unanimously approved all 5 of those variances. And now the brewery, a part of Bradley Road, will move forward to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I'm not sure whether they need any special permits from Planning and Zoning or whether this is a permitted use, but their project seems to be moving along very nicely. They're very enthused and energetic and really want to get this project started. And in addition, we also have the active adult community that is going to be built on the north side. And Attorney John Nuff represents Mr. Wise, who is going to retain that parcel. And he proposes to modify the original approvals for active adult community to a much smaller scale because he will only be owning about retaining half of the property that was originally approved for the Woodbridge Village. So he is pursuing, he needs to have an amendment to the zoning regulations because right now the zoning regulations allow the project that was originally approved 8 or 9 years ago, and that no longer can be built because obviously Mr. Wise only owns half the property. And the issue that made such a long delay in getting this project to fruition was the retail part of the project. The project was not bankable or not able to go forward because the retail part of the project was too much of a burden to proceed with the adult community. And that was explained to me, and it's the best as I can recall what the reason was for the delay. They are now proposing to build on 7 acres active adult community. I don't know how many. I think it's going to be in the range, and don't hold me to this, to 40, 45, 50 units. And that's subject to negotiations and discussion with the Planning and Zoning Commission on final site plan approval. So they do need an amendment to the zoning application. As zoning regulations, they had their first hearing about a week ago. It sounded like it went smoothly. I just listened by Zoom. And they're going to, that was continued because they need a report from the Council of Governments. Anytime you move to amend your zoning regulations, we have to receive comments from the Council of Governments. Those comments were not received, and the hearing is going to be rescheduled for the P&Z's meeting in December. So those 2 projects seem to be moving along okay. There were no opposition to either one of those 2 hearings that were held last night and last week. So I just wanted to give you an update on where we stand on those two projects. I have never seen the town busier in terms of land use applications than we have been the last month or so. So there's a lot going on with these groups. Any questions on either of those two applications? It's clear as can be, right?
No, it's great news. It's nice.
Thanks, Jerry.
I think it is good news, and I think both zoning boards were very, very pleased with the types of proposals that came before them.
Thank you.
And Jerry, are they apartments or condos?
Pardon? They haven't. Well, I think they did say. I'm not sure whether they said it or not. The original approvals was for condos. I think this request is going to be for apartments.
Okay, thank you.
I think they mentioned that at the hearing, although I'm not positive. And again, don't hold me to that. That's the best of my recollection, but I think it is apartments.
They are all over 55, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Age restricted or whatever it's called. Okay.
Yeah, it's called active adult community, but it is restricted to a certain age, right?
Okay. Thank you.
And that's all I have in my report, except for the executive sessions.
Jerry, I have a question about, there's an update listed here about American Medical Response. Is that going to be?
That's an executive session, I think.
It didn't end up there, but okay. So
okay, no, we can talk about it now and then go into an executive session.
All right.
AMR, as you know, does our medical response. They've done it for years and years and years. Their contract is up, I think this was mentioned earlier, at the end of December, and Dwight mentioned at the last meeting. Tony has been negotiating with AMR. The principal is Chuck Baxon, and they are in the process of giving us a final proposal. There are lots of issues to be ironed out with AMR, and we have until the end of December. We're hopeful that we do have at least a proposal to bring to the Board of Selectmen. There is some conversations going on with Chief Rowland of the fire department about whether the town should be in a position to move at the Department of Public Health to get back the license to do emergency services. Right now it's being held by AMR. We discussed this last year. Joe Dye and I had a conversation with an attorney from North Haven who represented North Haven in his efforts to get back the license for North Haven. We're still trying to formulate AMR's offer and hope to have more for you at the next meeting in December about these two issues.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any other questions for Jerry on these items? Okay. So we will now move to item 14, which is executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1-200 parens 6 and parens. Number one, I will invite the board members in, and number two, invite Tony Genovese and Jerry Weiner. And I think that's it for inviting in. To number one, a discussion of application to amend the zoning regs regarding 2 Orchard Road. That's 1-206B. And then a discussion of draft agreement regarding CMed services 1-210A1. And also perhaps discussion on further contract negotiations with American Medical Response.
Well, it all comes under the CMed issues.
I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. So I'll make that motion. Is there a second? Thank you, Sam. Okay.
Excuse me, Beth, could you just clarify who's invited into the first executive session?
There's only one. We're going to do them all together, Jerry?
Correct.
That's what I thought.
Tony and I are relevant for both executive sessions.
That's what I thought. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Just wanted to be sure I got that.
Sure. So we have a motion and a second, and Sandy has something to comment about. Go ahead, Sandy.
I'll wait till after we vote, and then I'll make the comment. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. All in favor, please signify. I don't know if we can, because then we go into executive session.
Okay.
So
my comment has to do with something that you sent us in the correspondence, not about these issues. That's why I wanted to say something.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to thank you for sharing with us the conversation and the photographs of the Shanty Rose Garden. that is just outstanding. It is stunning. And I can't wait till the roses come back again in the spring. I mean, it is really something spectacular that they have given to the town. And I want to
I
thank them.
agree. Tony and I had a wonderful meeting with Dr. Prasad. Unfortunately, it had to be phone call, but it's amazing what he's doing to that property and looking to keep it going. And it's just, thank you for that. It was, I had to share it with you guys because it was so lovely. So
Thank
you're
you for
welcome.
letting me say something.
You're welcome. Okay. Now I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any abstentions or opposition? So we'll ask, I guess, Pua and Betsy and Jerry Shaw to tune out. Is that how this works?
Mhm.
This is all stuff done behind the curtain.